Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to another Soul Calibur video. Today we're going to be talking about Ivy Valentine, and in order to talk about her, we need to go quite far back in time. Now Ivy is in fact the daughter of the villainous pirate Cervantes, but due to Cervantes' cruel and unloving nature, he would leave her mother and her as he went across the 7 seas, pillaging and destroying other ships. As around this time her father was under the influence of Soul Edge, but do not get it twisted, as Cervantes was always a cruel individual before that. Now Ivy's family history is quite vague. We don't actually know what happened to her mother, but at a very young age, she was abandoned by her mother in front of the house of Valentine, a wealthy family from London. They would adopt Isabella and take her in as their own, giving her the finest form of education and love anyone could need. Now when Ivy was a young lady, tragedy would strike once again, as her adopted father, Earl Valentine, had squandered the family's money, searching an item known as the key to eternal youth. His search for this apparent key would drive him insane, eventually leading to his death and shortly his wife afterwards. Upon their death, she came to the knowledge that she wasn't in fact their daughter, but still had appreciated everything they'd done for her. But as she was searching through Earl Valentine's diary, she came to the knowledge about the weapon known as Soul Edge, as he'd been searching for it for many years, and she herself wanted to learn more about the weapon. It didn't take long for her to come to the realization that Soul Edge was a weapon that would corrupt anyone near it. It had a tendency to drive its wielder insane, so in her eyes the weapon should be destroyed. Thus began the creation of her sword. Now this was a long and very painful process for her, as she stayed up every single night, but no matter how much time she put into her alchemy or how much of her own blood she used, she was always unsuccessful. That was until one fateful night, where during one of her summoning sessions, Nightmare would appear and grant the weapon life. Now Ivy was understandably very confused at this point, as she was starting to lose grips to her sanity, but by the time morning had arrived, the weapon that Isabella had been pursuing after for so long was finally in her hand, and she would name it the Ivy Blade. Now during the events of Soul Calibur 1, she enjoyed the satisfaction she got from wielding the Ivy Blade, and one day she would in fact come across Nightmare, who managed to manipulate her into working for him. It's only until she came under the knowledge that Nightmare was wielding Soul Calibur that she then turned against him. Unfortunately for her, she also came across the information that the only reason her Ivy Blade even existed was due to Soul Edge, and what hurt her more was learning that her father was Cervantes, someone who had also wielded Soul Edge. Heartbroken over this revelation, Ivy would return back to her home in London and began to reconsider her options and what she could do. After months of soul searching, she came to the conclusion that not only did she have to destroy Soul Edge, but she needed to destroy any shards that were left over, along with anyone that was tied to Soul Edge. Now as she was on her quest, she found it increasingly difficult to control her weapon, as the amount of blood it had tasted meant that its mannerisms started to become very similar to that of Soul Edge, as Soul Edge was created by being drowned in the blood of its enemies. Now when she returned back home to England, she began to look into the history of Soul Edge and came across the knowledge of its legendary counterpart Soul Calibur, and how it would apparently grant its wielder the ability to not only compete against Soul Edge, but be strong enough to destroy it. Now as she was deciphering this information down in a book, she'd be ambushed by a former wielder of Soul Edge, Zalsamal. At least I hope that's how his name is pronounced. After ambushing her and defeating her, he would take her book and burn it, as Zalsamal himself was interested in wielding both Soul Edge and Soul Calibur. Now although the book was lost, Ivy still managed to retain a lot of the information that was in there, and wanted to pursue after Soul Calibur, as she was interested in how it could destroy Soul Edge. Now during her pursuit, she came across a man by the name of Kong, and informed her that she wouldn't be able to wield Soul Calibur due to her father being Cervantes, a previous wielder of the blade. Because of this, her blood is technically cursed, so if she were to wield the weapon, she'd instantly be destroyed. But this didn't dishearten Ivy, as since she was a practitioner of alchemy, she'd create a homunculus that was very similar to her and give it an artificial soul. Now during this time, she'd be ambushed by Cervantes, as her father was searching for souls to consume in order to be strong enough to once again wield Soul Edge. Now her father drained her of her life force, leaving only a small fraction left. However, yet this time was desperate and more or less at death's doorstep. But knowing that her business wasn't quite over, she would take the artificial soul from the homunculus and fuse it with her own. Although it wouldn't keep her alive for that long, it would give her enough time to hunt down and destroy Soul Edge. Now when she arrived at Ostrheinsberg, where the final battle had begun, she once again came across her father, and she would battle him to the death, with Ivy being able to overpower and destroy him. Now by doing this, she in fact freed all of the souls that Cervantes had kept within him, meaning that her own soul was restored. And shortly after her victory, Siegfried had just defeated Nightmare and apparently had destroyed Soul Edge. But Ivy knew that deep down, although Soul soul edge was gone for now, but it would come back later, as she'd studied enough about the weapon to learn that destroying it would be no easy task. So over the next decade or so, she'd study more about soul edge and learned about the astral realm where the blade could reside in order to repair itself. Now around this time, she also learned about the cursed blood in her veins. You see, Ivy at the time of Soul Calibur 5 is in fact 49, but she looks no older than 23. It's here that she learned that by having the cursed blood in her veins, she had more or less become immortal. So with this unlimited time in her hands, she would try her best to find a way to remove soul edge from existence permanently. But of course, we don't actually get to see this come to fruition in Soul Calibur 5, as the game is heavily focused on a newer generation of heroes. But yeah, that's kind of it for Ivy for now, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it and learned more about the character. Now personally, before I made this video, I didn't really know much about Ivy, but now I'm glad I've learned more about her, as she is really more than just a pretty face. She has a lot of layers to her character, and really it shows that she isn't complete fan service. Cause let's face it, those things help the game sell. I mean, even Bandai Namco had promotional posters of this to help the game sell. But I think at the moment I'm more or less surprised at how she's intertwined with the main storyline of the game, as for the most part we mostly know Siegfried and Nightmare. But it's very refreshing to see another character be after soul edge for different reasons completely. And considering for the most part it always seems like Ivy's fighting Cervantes, I was pleasantly surprised to learn of how involved she was with the main storyline. But yeah, that's kind of it for now, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more in the future. I actually have a poll set up on my Twitter right now with characters I want to talk about for next week's video. So a link for that will be down in the description below. Please head over there and vote for who you want to see next week. Anyway guys, before this video wraps up, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes. It's a great way of supporting this channel, as YouTube's ad system is broken as hell. So by giving it a thumbs up, it helps out a ton. And if you'd like to go the extra step, we also have a Patreon set up. A link for that will be down in the description below. Anyway guys, as always, please comment, like, subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.